Hello, beautiful people. You are back on the Dean Paz Podcast. Today, we are joined by a philanthropist, an actor, one of the leaders of the African Hebrew Israelite community in Dimona, an ambassador to the African diaspora, a style guru, style icon. What else? How many hats do you wear? Father, husband, friend, brother.
Keep going.
Let's
Keep
go.
going.
We have Ashriel Moore in the studio. Welcome,
Yes, sir, my brother.
welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here with you, Dean, and I'm happy that you invited me to this podcast after so long that we haven't had a chance to really be able to sit down and chop it up. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation, my brother.
Likewise, bro. So before we really get into it, like who is Ashriel Moore? Tell us about your journey. What made you be who you are, and how did you get your inspiration?
That's a loaded question, because every time I think about that, I realize that each of us are actually born who we are, right? But it's then our responsibility to actually develop into who we are by surrounding ourselves with the correct people that could be able to be that incubator to help us to actually develop into the people who we were actually born to be. The environment that you are raised in also has a major effect on the kind of person that you become also later on. And so I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of the African Hebrew Israelite community in Dimona, right? And I was born into this community in Dimona, right? This is the largest concentration of African Americans outside of America in any place in the world, right? A fully self-sufficient community of people who have developed, an extravagant community that's based on principles of love, of peace, of family, of security, of justice, of equality, all of the things that we actually hope for in the world today. We actually have an environment. I was raised in an environment that actually housed all of those principles, right? And so my name means that God is my happiness and one who has been approved by God. And so that just simply means that all of these attributes, all these attributes are coming together, right, to formulate the person who you see today. Mm-hmm. But I think who am I? I think the easiest way to say it is that I'm your brother, right? I'm your brother.
You said that we haven't seen each other for a long time.
That's true.
But I feel like I see you every so often because you're on my bank going like this. Every time I see you.
If I'm on your bank, give me some of that money. You need to deposit some money into my bank account every time you go.
I'm telling you, man. I see you every time I go to the bank, smiling like that. So it's like, but it feels like it's just like long overdue.
That's right.
First of all, since being a representative of the African, ambassador of the African diaspora, what does that really mean? And to all the people that, the age-old, tired-old stereotype of, you have people think that people that live in Israel are, white colonizing Jews from Europe, Poland, that came, and they look at it in such a black and white binary way. Who are the African Hebrew Israelites? A little kind of history, a little story. Ben Ami, a lot of the the traditions, and how did that come to be in the beginning?
You asked a loaded question here. you asked about the community in Dimona. Yeah. You asked about the African diaspora, and you asked about the fact that people view Israel in a specific light from the outside. So I want to start, first of all, with the African diaspora, since that was the first thing that you had asked about. The African Diaspora Collective is actually, or my job within the African Diaspora Collective as an organization that is representing the diaspora of people of African ancestry who are outside of the African continent, wherever they are in the world, which is called the 6th region. And so my responsibility here in Israel is to amplify the voices of the African communities who are here in Israel. Most people don't know that there is approximately 500,000 people of African ancestry who are residing right here in Israel. So I'm talking to you about the Beta Israel Ethiopian community. I'm talking to you about the African American Jews. I'm talking to you about the African Hebrew Israelite community. I'm talking to you about the the asylum seekers from Sudan and from Eritrea. I'm talking to you about the Afro-Bedouins, the Afro-Palestinians, the Igbos, the Togolese, the Senegalese, the Ghanaians, all of these communities that exist here in Israel. My job is to actually provide a voice for these communities, first of all, within Israel, right? On the political level, socially, and to develop economic spheres that could be able to help these communities to rise above their current conditions, but also to the international community to be able to help people to conceptualize Israel through the eyes of our experiences. Our experiences are like none others, right? And so we can't have, with all due respect, anybody else speaking in regards to our experiences here in Israel, right? We have to be the ones that represent our experiences to the world because our experiences are very different, right? We're very nuanced in how we experience Israel, and we're the only ones who could actually provide that voice. And so I am one of the ones who have been chosen to actually be a spokesperson for these communities here in Israel so that people can be able to conceptualize Israel through our experiences. Now, when you look on the international level, the reason why people conceive Israel as being a white colonial state and all of those things is because the people who are the spokespersons for the Israeli society, for the Israeli government, the representatives in the government, all of these things, they represent a monolithic type of voice, right? And outer appearance. So the greater majority of the people that you see, they would be Ashkenazi Jews who are mostly secular, right? And this is what people see when they hear about Israel. The problem is not the society within Israel, but it's the governmental institutions and the government and the people who they have as what they believe to be the better representation of Israel to the world. And so because of that, you have then a conception of Israel that is through viewing these specific individuals who, by the way, are the minority in Israel, right? But because they're the ones who are on the forefront, then what else do you expect? People don't know about all the communities that I've just mentioned to you here in Israel. People don't know about the divide within the Jewish community here in Israel, where you have approximately 70%, right, who are Mizrahi, or 55%, 56% who are Mizrahi and Sephardi Jews, right? And then the Bnei Israel from India, and then the Beta Israel from Ethiopia, and then 20% from Arab communities, and then the Druze. People are not aware of these things. And the reason why they are not aware of these things is because the ones who are out on the forefront, who are supposed to be representing Israel, quote unquote, they're representing a different aspect of Israel. And that's the part of Israel where people actually believe that this is the actual representation, which is not. And so that's not our fault. That's their fault.
Do you think that it's just easier for people to kind of look at it and see the kind of victim and oppressor mentality? And it's like it's too nuanced for them to go into the details. They want to find somebody to blame, and they want to find somebody to sympathize for or with. And it's easier to just look at it as like one is oppressing the other one. That's
sure.
it.
I mean, that's the easiest. See, on the international scale, right, it's always much easier to reduce very complex and complicated things, right, to a level where people could be able to actually digest them. Right? Because you don't have the ability to even be able to critically think about things that are more nuanced because you're not even familiar with the nuance. Most people are not going to go and do significant research to be able to get a better understanding of a topic, right? They're going to just take small bits and pieces from wherever they consume their information from: social media, the media, the conventional media, written media, all of these things. And so because this is how people consume their information, then they're dependent on the people who are bringing their information to them to actually deliver to them things that are confirm their own biases. Most people are not looking to receive the truth. They're looking for confirmation bias. And so absolutely, it's much easier to not go down in deep, because if you go down in deep, then you would have to ask very critical questions, right? The first critical question that you would have to ask is, who are Israelis and who are Palestinians? Because when most people say Israelis, they're not talking about me. They're talking about Ashkenazi Jews. But Ashkenazi Jews are not the representation of the entire society of Israel. When most people say Palestinians, they're referring to Arabian people. But then you have Europeans who had migrated here during the Ottoman period, who were also Muslim, who are also part of this Palestinian identity. You have also Afro-Palestinians, people who had migrated from nearby African states, and people who've been here for centuries, right? Who've also kind of accepted upon themselves this identity that, by the way, wasn't an identity until the 1960s. Yeah. But nonetheless, people accepted and adopted these identities. And so people who are looking from the outside, they're not familiar with the historical aspect of it. They know about the things that are out there. They know about the general aspect, but nobody's going to really go deeper. And so, yes, part of it is that people want to reduce things to a level where they could be able to comprehend. But also part of it is us not properly representing the society of Israel to the world. And so that's why my job in representing the African diaspora is to speak on our own behalf. Because if everybody else speak for us, then our voices won't be heard, and the nuances that we experience here will be missed because other people can't represent that to the world. And so that's why we have to have Beta Israel Ethiopians represent the community of Israel. You have to have Afro Bedouins to represent the community of Israel. You have to have Mizrahi Jews to represent the community of Israel. You have to have Arabs and Druze and others to represent the community of Israel, because all these people are part of the community of Israel. But if the international community are not seeing these people as part of the community of Israel, then the only thing that they actually have is to confirm their biases based on the people who they actually see on the forefront all the time. And part of that is our problem. I'll go to your second question. Unless you have anything that you want to.
Well, I just wanted to know, when you look at your own, like what your own identity is, what do you consider yourself as first? Are you first Israeli? Are you first African Hebrew? What do you?
I'm a person. I'm a person.
Okay.
I'm Ashriel first, because none of us are born with these identities, mm-hmm. right? We come into the world as pure souls, right? And then our environment, our parents, our family, school, our friends, the church, all the other, surrounding institutions. Yeah. They're the ones who actually fuel us with all of the information and the identity and all of these things that we become those things that they've put on us. But if you allow a person just to naturally develop as he is, right? That you have no concept of a Jew, of an Israelite, of an Arab. You just are a person, right? Because a baby doesn't know. I have a 11-month-old baby.
Very, very cute, by the way.
Thank you. And I can promise you that when she looks at the other babies, she's not thinking if they're Arab or a Druze or a Russian. She just sees that person as a person, and she's going and she's playing and she's enjoying them.
So where does racism, or where does those kind of differential thoughts that like us and them or the other or those things, where do those come from, and at what age, and how deeply ingrained is that, would you say, specifically in Israeli society?
So usually from the moment that parents start to teach their children, about certain concepts, it starts at the home. Okay. It starts at the home, but it starts at a level where you now could be able to begin to comprehend things, to be able to understand things. When you see things that are happening in your environment, then you automatically kind of gravitate to those things. For example, right? The way you start to bring in the Shabbat, the Hadlakat Nerot and singing and all those things, right? A child, after he does that once and twice, and that becomes part of his habit, then he understands that this is part of his identity. This is, I guess, something that he's supposed to do, right? This is something that is part of who he is as an individual, as a person. But then he goes into institutions like the Gan, and then school, and then extracurricular activities, and then his community, and then the people that he's listening to, and the people who he's hanging out with. All of these things, at an early age, at an early age, children all they start to suck things up like a sponge, right, at a very early age. And so I would say that these things begin at home. Racism, bias, bigotry, all of these things are not attributed to you at birth. You don't receive these things as soon as you come out of the womb. You have to be indoctrinated with these things. And so that indoctrination begins at a very young age, but it only begins to materialize at an age where you start to actually understand it, because it takes a moment for children to actually be able to process these things in their mind. They don't understand these things until way later on, until their parents say, well, no, I don't want you going over to play with the black children. You stay over here with the white people. Right? Or, you don't go over there with the Arabs. You stay over here with the Jews. Or don't go over there with the Jews. You stay over here with the Arabs. In the minds of children, they don't even understand why. They're trying to process these things and understand what is wrong with this person that I can't hang out with him because mama says, because I said so. Or dad says, because I said so. But they don't necessarily explain these things to you. But then later on, when they begin to explain them to you, they try to explain them in a way where it's comprehensible and it's understood, right? But they also inflict a level of fear and concern and worry in you, so that you not only would have to think about these things in your mind, it also would trigger something emotionally in you, that when you come into contact with a certain individual that's from a certain background, because you've been indoctrinated to see this person or to see these people in or through these specific lens, then it will automatically trigger something in you. And so later on, you don't even think about the fact that when you see a certain individual from a certain background, you may become afraid. Now, the person hasn't done anything to you, but you hear the way they talk, that may trigger fear in you. You hear or you see the way they look, that may trigger worry or concern in you. For example, you walking down the street and the black person is walking behind you. That person hasn't done anything to you. But quite naturally, if you've been indoctrinated and your mind has been prepared in such a way where when you see this type of person, you should automatically think about danger, then you automatically think that you're in danger because you're coming in contact with this type of person. So these things are happening. It happens in levels. It develops over time.
In Israeli society, though, specifically, are we behind America? Are we more ahead in terms of that type of thinking and that kind of us versus them? And what steps could we take? How do we combat this? How do we move forward with this and stop having this be such a talking point all the time and such a deeply ingrained thing in society, or will it always be?
So two things. Right now in Israeli society, there's still a conversation about the first Israel and the second Israel, right? Israel HaRishona, Israel HaShniya. Israel HaRishona, or the first Israel, is considered those who come from the leftist, Ashkenazi, European, secular backgrounds, right? That these are people who their families or, somewhere in their genealogy, these are people who actually established the state of Israel. Their family members or others, within that same milieu, they were the ones who established a lot of the institutions. And so today they are still in control of a lot of the institutions. And so there are a lot of people who are gatekeeping, preventing other people from being able to have access to those institutions. And so you hear on the Mizrahi Sephardi side that it's like, okay, we're experiencing discrimination as a result of the fact that they wouldn't allow us to have access to these institutions. They have a glass ceiling above us, right? That's Israel HaRishona, Israel HaShniya. But then you also have, within that, you have the paradigm of looking at people through color lens, right? So we're talking about Ethiopians, we're talking about African Hebrew Israelites, we're talking about asylum seekers. So in a lot of institutions, like in the police or in the judiciary systems, they have an ingrained bias against people because of their skin color as well. So that's why you have to establish institutions like within the Ministry of Justice, the unit to fight against racism and as such, right? Then you have the dynamics of the secular versus the orthodox, right? So you have the seculars who
basically you're saying everywhere people can find difference.
They'll
find difference.
It exists.
Yeah.
Now, when you ask, are we behind or are we ahead of America? It's very different in America because America was,
while people though, sorry to cut you off a little, the people in America look at the dynamics in Israel through the same lens a lot of the time.
Yeah. Which is very flawed because America, the difference between America and Israel is that the society of Israel, most people who are in Israel, these are people who feel like they have a deep connection, right? Spiritually, mentally, physically, also according to, their biological family roots to Israel in one way or another. But America was built on the backs of enslavement of people of African ancestry. It was built by destroying 90% of the population of the native people who were there, who've been there since time immemorial, right? And then putting 10% others in reservations. It was built on the idea of exploitation of everybody who they could be able to exploit. It was built on the idea of continuing this racial dynamics of white versus black. So at every juncture, you see that exists. And let's not be naive. Up until the 1960s, people like of my skin hue didn't even have the rights, fundamental rights to vote, for example. Right? They had to go out and fight for civil rights. Right? This wasn't a thing that even though in the Constitution it says that all men are created equal and are endowed by God to fundamental rights, inalienable rights, right? Life, liberty,
and the pursuit of
and the pursuit of happiness. But
Democracy.
those things, but that doesn't really exist.
It doesn't exist,
it's a
and
farce.
it started in Greece, right, with the ideas of democracy, but it was only given to specific men that owned land.
Yeah,
and that was probably like around 10% or 20% of the whole population were able to vote.
So it was never the general society. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But however, I think I'm not gonna we're not gonna probably find new ideas within this talking point. I just wanted to you look at the parallels between the American civil rights movement. You look at some of the things that the government here also is trying to do, or is trying to take away certain rights, or even deport in certain instances certain people and minority groups. The best way to deal with that is, do we need leaders like Martin Luther King, or do we need leaders like Malcolm X, or some kind of a combination, or something completely different? Where are we at now?
So you had asked me about the community in Dimona, right? And to tell you a little bit about the community. It's important because I'm going to tie these two together, right? The community in Dimona are people who, after 400 years of enslavement in America, right? After 2,000 years of exile from being away from this land, after undergoing some of the most brutal things that a people could experience in their life. We're talking about enslavement. We're talking about people being tied away from their families. We're talking about people being burnt at the stakes. We're talking about people being lynched. We're talking about babies, being target practice. All of these things are what we experienced, but we still managed to be able to rise above that condition, to maintain our identity as a people, and to remember that at one stage or another, we'll have to go back to where we actually came from, go back home, not to remain in that society. And why am I tying that together? Because in the 1960s, while you had those civil rights leaders who were talking about the importance of integration into a society that does not want you, right? And you are not from there, and they don't see you as part of that society because they never intended for you to be part of that society. You are looking to force yourselves into becoming part and parcel of, of the society that rejects you, that does not want you, right? But here in Israel, it's very different because we return to our ancestral homeland. And so I don't care about the government not wanting us here or yes, wanting us here, wanting to deport us. We're going to fight that, and we're going to continue to fight that, right? But we have a right to be in our ancestral homeland, and no one, I don't care if you, the government, the institutions, have the right to prevent that from the people who return. Because I thought that everybody, that the country was established for those people who have been in the diaspora, the tribes of Israel, and who are looking to return to Israel. So what are you going to say? You're going to discriminate between some, okay, so these people can come and these people can't come? I don't accept that premise. And so when I look at it through that lens, so I'm saying to myself, in America, they had people who were looking to forcibly fight their way into a society that was never built for them in the first place, and that continues even in 2025 to reject them. But in Israel, we don't need those type of people. We just need communities and people who are dedicated, right, to the fundamental things. We just need people in communities to stand on specific principles, and all else is going to work its way out. Why? Because Israel is like no other country or no other land on this earth, right? There's something deeply spiritually embedded in this place, right? That everybody, whether you're looking at Jews or Christians or Muslims or other conscious people, they recognize and realize the type of spiritual significance that Israel and Jerusalem holds. And this place, over the generations, we've seen that if you are not morally upright, you don't have a chance to remain here forever. You get spit out. America is not that way. There's nothing holy and sacred about America, right? And a lot of other places in the world. But the land of Israel, there's something deeply embedded spiritually in the land of Israel, and your moral decadence at one point is going to cause you to get kicked out of the land. That's what happened with the children of Israel all throughout the generation. As soon as you went astray morally, diaspora. Whether it was the Assyrians coming in, taking us out, the Babylonians coming in, taking us out, the Greeks coming in, taking us out, the Romans coming in, the Arabs.
Everybody
had a
turn.
And they come, and they don't remain here either. So, the
enemies of Israel fall always. Always.
But also Israel has to be morally.
They don't fall. They just kind of go get on their kicked on their ass.
You get kicked out, and
they stand up again.
You have a chance to be able to return, right? Yeah. But that's not going to be forever, right? Because the only reason Israel was given a mandate to be a light unto the nations, and to bring forth what is called the tikkun olam, to repair things from a broken state to bring them into a wholesome state. And if people who call themselves Israel are not carrying out that mandate, then God will take the kingdom from who he chooses and give it to whom he chooses. Saul had fallen out of favor, and David became the king of Israel. But David, it took him 33 years before he actually assumed the throne. But all that period of time, Saul was still on the throne of Israel, but he was no longer the king. And so God has a way to determine for himself who is going to be the sole proprietor of his land, because the people who are here on the land of Israel this doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to the God of Israel. But we're the ones who are expected to be the caretakers of the land. And if we're not taking care of the land, then obviously we don't have any mandate to remain here.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about the African Hebrew Israelites or the whole village of peace?
I don't think it's a misconception about the village of peace more than what it is a misconception about the identity of African Hebrew Israelites, generally wherever they are in the world, right? People believe that this is some fabricated ideology that was developed within the last few years, and then suddenly, and it's actually, it's ignorant, but it's also a little offensive to say to people who know who they are, who've maintained within their gut, even though they were not able to outwardly practice a lot of those tenets, but they maintain their identity by passing it through song and through dance, right? When you hear about the songs that we had sang about Beyond the Jordan and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot coming forth to carry me home, and all of these other songs, Joshua fought the battles of Jericho. These things were not coming from learning them from somebody else. They were coming from us knowing where we actually came from and where we are to return to. And so when people don't understand it, this is an unbroken chain that has been continued on for generations since at the least 70 AD, right? Where a significant amount of those Judean tribes, or those people who resided in Judea, were exiled, found refuge in North Africa, migrated from North Africa as a result of the Arab conquests. As a result of the Arab conquest, then found refuge on the western shores of Africa, and then were taken from there into America to be enslaved. And then because of 400 years of you being totally stripped away from your identity, us coming back into the knowledge of ourselves was something that was never supposed to happen. And so the fact that we managed to do so, people can't really wrap their minds around that. So they're saying to themselves, these people had no identity. How did they somehow believe that they are part of this specific milieu of people? Well, because we know who we are. And whether you are in Europe or in Asia or in Africa or in North America, South America, if you are of that specific identity of Israelites, you're going to wake up to that identity at one point or another. And as Israelites, we're expected to at one point or another reconnect. All 12 tribes of Israel are expected to return home. And so I don't know what people are looking for when they say the 12 tribes or the 10 lost tribes. I don't know where they're looking for these people to come from. But we are waking up and we're coming to you and telling you that we are here. We've arrived. And so people can't process that in their brains, because how does a people fall so low, go through so much, but manage still to rise out of that and once again reconnect to their previous identity and continue to move forward and go back home? That baffles people. So it's not a misconception. People are really baffled. They really can't understand how in the hell did this happen. And that's, I think, one of the biggest misconceptions.
So you had a chance to also to tour Village of Peace with a lot of these celebrities from Hollywood and all over the world. Tiffany Haddish.
Well, they had a chance to come.
They had a chance to come meet you. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I brought them there.
So tell us a little bit about that. Who's how was it for them, and like for them to really see like the culture and how you guys live and operate and everything? How what are some stories from them and who?
So look, I had to. Even before me, we hosted a lot of celebrities in the Village of Peace. We had Whitney Houston, we had Bobby Brown, and we had Martin Luther King III, and we had Stevie Wonder, and we had the Neville Brothers, and we had Amari Stoudemire, and we had Blair Underwood, and we had Megan Good and her ex-husband. We had a lot of people to come through to visit. We had Winnie Mandela. We had all these people to come to visit the community to understand the impact that this community has had from Israel to the world. We've developed something in Israel where the Foreign Ministry of America called a phenomena in the land of phenomenons. Wow. Where in the Foreign Ministry of Israel, they called it an island of sanity.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So so people really wanted to understand, what is this place? Is it the people? Is it just the place? Is it the structures? What in the hell is going on down there in Israel and in Dimona? And so when I brought people like Tiffany Haddish and Montana Tucker and my brother Kenny Hamilton and other people down to see, to tour, to experience, they had the same experiences as other people had. As a matter of fact, Tiffany said on a podcast with, I forget the name of the lady, she said that her experience in visiting the community was the the most incredible experience that she had in Israel, right? And she said the way that we live, right? The way that we live in Israel as a family, as a unit, as a community, everybody together, the health practices, the food that we eat, all the way that we could be able to vacillate between Hebrew and English, jump back and forth between these languages, the fact that we are so embedded in our identity, the fact that children just running around freely. This is really an island of sanity, right? This is really I would call it the representation of the ideals of what the nation of Israel could and should represent to the world. And so when people come here to see, they're not coming to see just a bunch of black people just moving around, in a community with the houses that are about to break down because the Israeli government just refuses to provide to us proper housing. They're coming to feel the spirit that exists in this place. And that's something that when these people actually come down there to visit the community, when they leave, you can't come to Dimona, to the community, and this is why you have to come.
I have to come.
You can't come to the Dimona community and leave out the same way that you came. It's not possible. It's not possible. And again, it's because of what.
Listen, if you guys can show, Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder saw. He came. What you say? He came. He saw.
There you go. He saw with his third eye.
That's right. He came. He felt. It was the energy that he felt.
Yeah.
There was a video that he was speaking in 1995, and he said in the video, he said that I am so happy to be here amongst my family. Now, mind you, he can't even see who's there. Look, you don't even know where you are. The only way that he know where he is that people would have to either have told him where he is, or he would have had to feel it in his soul that he is in a place that is extremely different than any place he's been to in the world. And so, yes, if Stevie Wonder was able to see what that community is, then everybody else who comes there, you can't leave out the same. No way.
So you also you participated also in the Amazing Race.
That's right.
How was that experience? And you're not only you're an actor. You're in media. You're in film. How what dreams do you have in that avenue?
Man, I said to myself when I was younger, I said to myself I was going to be a big time actor.
Who was your role model? Who was your icon?
Will Smith, because somebody told me I look like him. So it was a season. I don't know if you remember, but it was a season where on Facebook, right, you would have to put a picture of your lookalike, your celebrity lookalike. Yeah, it was like a fad or whatever, and a bunch of people were just sending me the picture of Will Smith. So I'm like, damn it. Okay, I accept it. All right. I look like him, and I'm going to be an actor just like him. But, I don't know. I don't even know where it came from. I never studied. I never learned anything in acting. I never went to any drama classes or anything like that.
Shout out American Acting Center. Sign up now.
I never did anything, but I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I got into it. So I had some major roles also outside of the major, because the Amazing Race is it's a reality show, but I had some acting roles in other places. There were major acting roles, and I really enjoyed it. But now I'm like waking up at 4:00 in the morning.
That's what they don't tell you,
Yeah.
When you have roll call at 4 a.m. and you have to wake up and they drive you out and then when you get there you have to wait 3 hours just
3 hours
doing
and then you got to go through it,
Yeah.
and then you got this much text you got to learn, you got to regurgitate, you got to remember it. Not only remember it, you got to act it out. It's like, I really respect actors, because we go and we watch what they have developed, for an hour and a half. But it's much, much, much more that went into that than just what we actually saw within that hour and a half. So I give them kudos.
Amazing, man.
Yes, sir.
So your wife is also correct. She's a
She's
known actress.
She's an actress, a model, a social media influencer, a singer, all these things all together at once.
And you guys are kind of a power couple now. You have your,
you
have
that's
your
what you
baby.
say.
You guys
That's
are
what you say.
beautiful. You're a power couple.
Oh,
It's a
man.
big responsibility, like to the community. How do you? It's a heavy weight.
If
They
you say-
look to you to.
Dean, if you keep buttering me up, you're gonna have to continue.
I'm glazing you.
if you keep doing it, you're gonna have to continue.
We're glazing out here.
You can't stop. Okay. So first of all, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That's first of all. But secondly, look, I mean, we actually got into these things together. She was acting and she was doing the things that she was doing beforehand. But a lot of the things that we're actually doing now as a result of the Amazing Race, of our participation in the Amazing Race together, right? Then so people automatically kind of piece us together as a couple. You know what I mean? Whatever she does, but I'm trying to actually separate that, because I want her to do what she's doing and I want me to do what it is that I'm doing. But together, yes, we are who we are, but not we not. I mean, we just live. We just enjoy life. You know what I mean? The baby, she's now come along, and I think
What's your secret, man? Because you make it look easy. You make it look easy.
What,
balancing family, baby, marriage, acting, advocacy, everything at once. How do you carry the plate with all the dishes on it?
You drop some. So some things you just can't do the most, as much as you'd like to do.
Yeah.
But honestly, look, it's a task. But when you dedicate yourself to something, then things become easy, because when you understand what your calling is, and when you understand the importance of integrating all of these things into your life so that you can be able to really give it the proper attention, then you would prioritize things, right? My priority right now is, first of all, my wife and my baby. And then everything else comes after that. And so my life now, at different stages of my life, right, then my priorities are different. And then I kind of circle everything around those priorities. And in that manner, I'm not trying to get everything done at one time. You know what I mean? I'm trying to experience or to do what is the main focus, and then I try to incorporate other things also into that. So right now, I'm spending time with my baby and my wife is first, and then I try to incorporate a podcast into it. I try to incorporate little activism into it. I try to incorporate little acting into it. I try to incorporate little trip into it. I try to go down and visit my family in Dimona. I try to go out to represent the diaspora of Israel in a Congressional Black Caucus in America. So I'm trying to do all these things around the main priority. So at different stages of life, the main priority changes, and you just have to now navigate around that. And I think that's most important, because some people try and do everything all together. Like, this is your main priority. You want to be 100% with the podcast, but you also want to be 100% on the international scene, but you also want to be 100% over here in acting. And you want to be, it's not possible.
Ashriel, what is your ideal vision looking down the line for the African Hebrew Israelites? What's the utopian vision? What do you see like in your dream of dreams?
That this community and all of the attributes of the community and everything that we represent would become a model to the world, and how to be able to use these principles for the purpose, first of all, of establishing peace, right? Establishing a way that we could be able to coexist, in a way that we could be able to build on the concept of community that is the foundation of a nation and of this world today. And when I look at the community in Dimona, I see that all of the attributes that we attribute to God exist in the community. So when we say that God is love, then this is what that community represents. When we say that God is peace, then this is what that community represents. When we say that God is justice, this is what the community represents. So I want everything that this community represents to become a working model, right? For how to be able to actually arrive to what we call world peace. If I can be able to use this model, and it may not have to go to the entire world as a beginning, but if I can be able to use this model as a way to be able to overcome a lot of the differences in Israel as a start by using what this community represents, then I think that that community has done its job. And me 10, and it'll happen as soon as possible. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know that at one point, I don't think that that's my utopian vision. I know that this is what's going to happen. I know that this community is going to be a community that's going to be leading going into the future for a different trajectory than what we have accepted to be the norms up until now. And I'm just appreciative and happy to be one of the ones who are actually part of that community and who's sharing this vision to the world.
Beautiful, man. Thank you. I want to wrap it up with a question I ask every guest. What is the best advice that you've ever received and why?
My mother told me one time, because doing the things that you do, you're always going to encounter challenges and heartaches, and things get hard and hurdles and whatever else. But she said to praise the God of Israel, right? Look up, praise the God of Israel, and go forward. Everything else is a distraction that's trying to take you off of your path. Once you understand, and this is again what she said in addition to that, once you understand who you are and whose you are, then you will realize that nothing is too great for you to be able to accomplish or achieve, and nothing is possible or nothing is able to take you off of your path unless you allow it to. And so with everything that I do now, I have to remember who I am. I have to remember whose I am. And I have to remember to praise the God of Israel and to keep moving forward and to leave all the noises aside. And I think, for me, that's been one of the guiding principles that have brought me at least to this point. And I know if it brought me to this point, then it can take me much further. So,
amen to that.
Motherly advice.
Oh, yeah. Amazing, brother. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I want to come and visit the Village of Peace.
Look, man, don't just say that. You have to come and visit the Village of Peace.
I'm putting it down in the schedule as we speak.
But you hear him saying, right? You hear him saying.
We got it on tape. We got it on tape.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And hope we should chat again. We should do this real soon again. Bye, guys. Peace and love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother. Take care.
It's a wrap. Thank you.